14 National News with Lisa LaFlamme.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news. The manhunt in Moncton, New Brunswick is officially over. Police have arrested the prime suspect in the shooting deaths of 3 RCMP officers. The lockdown on the city's north end is now lifted. This is the amateur video reportedly showing Justin Bourque apprehended. He was the subject of a massive search. It lasted more than 24 hours and has finally come to an end late tonight in Moncton, New Brunswick. Here is the tweet from RCMP.
First, my family was just in my house in lockdown, and we noticed that there were a lot of the Army vehicles and the SWAT team driving by really slowly, which had been going on for the last couple of days, so that was nothing new. And then all of a sudden, one of the SWAT vehicles stopped in front of our house, and all the officers unloaded and started heading towards my backyard, and they were screaming, "Come out with your hands up." And then just without anything else, he just came out and said, "I'm done," and he had his arms raised, and they collected him from my backyard and brought him to my front yard, and he was laid sprawled out on my front yard for quite a long time. They had a gun to him, but they didn't use it.
Dramatic eyewitness account. Michelle Thibodeau, all of this happened on the front yard of her home in Moncton. Tonight's dramatic developments cap off an extremely anxious day for the people of Moncton, with a very heavy police presence, as you can imagine, in the streets. CTV's Peter Ackman joins us now from Moncton with more on the arrest. Peter.
Well, that's right. It happened right on the edge of the restricted area near the Moncton Coliseum. That's where police were searching last night around 1 in the morning. They moved away from that search for some reason as they moved through this day, but they said all throughout that he believed that he was in this restricted zone. They stayed firm. They kept the perimeter. They kept the SWAT teams going in and out of the area, forcing, pressuring, trying to push Bourque to come and reveal himself. At one point, though, they did admit that they had lost track of him. They did not know where he was. That sent a ripple effect through this community. A lot of people wondering how long this would go on for. Would he was he able to get out of that restricted zone? Really a challenging time for both the RCMP, but also for the residents who really just wanted some closure. They wanted to be able to reopen their restaurants, their municipal buildings, which were all shut down. The buses were shut down. The kids were kept off the street. A lot of stress for the families in this restricted area, but right across the Moncton area. So they were watching with great anticipation, and the celebrations have been wild tonight. People honking their horns, yelling thank you to the RCMP officers who are stationed here, sentries at this main entrance into the restricted area, and people are hugging, coming out in this terrible weather, a jovial atmosphere. But this comes after a long day of tension.
Okay, Peter, thank you so much for that dramatic developments tonight. We're going to take a look, as Peter said, at the way this all started. So we'll take a look at that item now.
There are scenes no one in the city could have ever imagined seeing firsthand. Armored vehicles patrolling the streets.
He shot him.
Oh my God!
Dressed in camouflage, armed with several high-powered rifles, a man opened fire in a quiet Moncton neighborhood, gunning down RCMP officers, one by one.
They're waiting for him to shoot him down.
Vanessa Bernanchez filmed this video.
We just banged and screamed at the officer, trying to tell him, like, turn around, but by then it was too late, and he was shot and he was dead.
The aftermath was gruesome.
I've seen cop cars, SUV, the windows get blown out, spatter shots inside the SUV.
Then, as if without a care, witnesses say the shooter walked away. Within minutes, the north end of Moncton was locked down, forcing everyone inside, out of sight, but the suspect was gone.
This is working through your worst nightmare.
Police identified the main suspect as 24-year-old Justin Bourque, a self-professed gun lover and cop hater.
He is very mobile and still considered very dangerous, armed and dangerous.
With 3 dead colleagues on their minds, hundreds of heavily armed officers began targeted searches, believing house by house, hour after hour, that they had him cornered. But no.
Oh, I'm kind of shaky. You would be too if you had guns pointed at you.
But there were sightings since the rampage. 16-year-old Caroline Wilson came face to face with Bourque while out walking her dog.
And he was yelling something about, like, come get me cops. But when he stopped, he stopped yelling. He put his gun kind of down, which kind of freaked me out because I thought he was going to shoot me.
But he didn't. Still, RCMP couldn't track him. Leads repeatedly came up empty. Meanwhile, friends and family of the slain were left feeling the same.
I met with the families this morning prior to coming here, and as you can all imagine, they are hurting. There's actually no way to describe the level of hurt.
And that from the RCMP, also the people living in that community, and of course the mayor of Moncton, George LeBlanc. He told a press conference that never in his darkest day did he think this could ever happen in his city. Tonight, like so many in Moncton, he expressed relief that it was over and admiration for the RCMP.
The fact that they were able to arrest the suspect and bring him in alive and in such, I mean, this is a person who is accused of shooting 5 policemen and killing 3. That's exceptional police work in the most difficult circumstances.